the most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
The Denver Broncos select Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome to another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No B.S. My name is Kev Dan, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight with you all. We have a lot to talk about. The Broncos just whooping up on the Raiders in this Week 5 matchup. And then, we got the Chargers coming up next, so we'll talk about that as well. But there's a lot of good things to talk about, some interesting things to talk about, some bad things to talk about. But we're going to get to all of that here before too long. David, I don't know, man. If I had $1 for every game that the Broncos won this year, I'd have $3.
You'd have $3
more than I would expect to have at this point.
out of a possible $5. That's not a bad number of dollars. You are everybody who bet the over on Broncos win totals for the season. You are halfway there, my friends, and it is
with a lot to go.
Yep. So feel pretty good about that, guys. It's like you said, Kev. There's a lot of stuff to work on. I want to tamp down immediately on any playoff talk. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to go there, Broncos country. No, Kev Dan. No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. I don't want to hear that the Broncos are the 6th seed in the AFC right now. We're not doing it. We're going to talk about next week's game. We're going to talk about last week's game, and we're going to stay on planet Earth.
You know what? That's a very, very fair assessment. Before we get into the Raiders game, I will say I get why people are getting excited all of a sudden. We have been so desperate for any kind of positivity around this team for so long that finally we're seeing these sparks of life. And it's very refreshing, right? But yeah, you got to remember, there's a long way for these guys to go. They're winning they're winning games. They're pushing through them. They're fighting through them. These games are not easy in any way. And even when they were up against Tampa Bay the whole time, they stayed looking really good and solid the whole time. So they're learning. They're growing together. But you're right, David. Let's just focus on the here and now. Let's just be happy that we're on a 3-game road streak or win streak. 2 of those wins coming on the road against very tough teams, tough defenses. And this was something that a lot of people, me especially, I'll admit it, start of the season was like, if we can, go 1-4 the first 5 games, that'd probably be, what you could expect. But I don't know, man. You in the same boat?
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't think that 1-4 was going to be. There was a pathway here, but it's like we were talking about a little bit earlier, Kev. The idea that we were going to be 3-2 after starting 0-2, and then seeing the Bucs and the Jets, and then the Raiders. The Raiders at that point weren't looking like world beaters, but man, we never beat the Raiders, right? We'd lost 8 straight games to them. So if you didn't beat the Seahawks and you couldn't beat the Steelers, what are you going to do against the Raiders? What are you going to do against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets? The Bucs just beat the Lions or whatever it was going into that week. So yeah, it looked like a pretty bleak start after going 0-2 there, and to win all 3 of those games was 2 of them on the road in the adverse conditions we know about, but to watch this defense really unfold before our eyes specifically, and then just see incremental progress, guys. And that's what I think we're going to use a phrase we're going to use a lot tonight. Incremental progress with the offense. You're seeing the run game especially finding its legs a little bit more and more. And I think that's more than anything what's been powering Bo Nix, but we'll get into all of that. That's right. Maybe not the socks, guys, but don't step on the pajamas.
Hey, you got pants on. That's
absolutely.
That's like
again,
putting on airs.
Fairly rarity for me on this show. Usually nothing goes on the bottom. It's just I'm free.
Let's see. The Chargers are my daughter's team. Well, Jerry, look, nobody's perfect. I'm sure your daughter's very nice, but she's not perfect, and that's okay. That's okay. She's going to be mad at me next weekend. As a Chargers fan, Jerry, would you say that she's mad most of the time? Because I would be if I was a Chargers fan, except for bye weeks. Those are probably pretty easy.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's what this last week was for the Chargers. So yeah, they're coming off, and we'll get into all of that. We'll see what kind of health they have. But yeah, and Sean, you're definitely right about this. There's
go for it.
Thank you. There's a team puffball thing that I love to do. Sean got to see me without it on the tailgate talk, and it was a little bit different experience for team puffball. But don't worry, I'm back, Jerry. I know you're going strong with the team puffball as well. So thank you guys for showing out so hard every single week. Yeah, Kev. Now let's get back to Gary's comment here, because man, Gary, you are completely right. Pure defensive bliss. And man alive, is it nice to have not one, but two corners, right, who can play and be trusted out there. You've got the young guy now, the second-year cornerback in Riley Moss. And you know what? The white cornerback narrative, whatever. I get it. It's a good way to get.
Yeah, it's a joke. I get it.
Yeah, whatever. But man alive, can he play? Like, that's what I care about. That I don't give a damn. He can play. And you've got obviously Pat Surtain out there. You've got no liabilities in that secondary right now. You've got Jaquan McMillan playing lockdown on that nickel's position. It allows your front to do so many things. And I don't I'd like to go back against the Raiders specifically. Maybe this is just a feeling, but it felt like we blitzed less, especially after they caught us with Gardner Minshew on those early couple of runs, right?
Right. And I think we had to blitz less. Part of it was, if you're looking from what I saw anyway, they did not want us to get into the backfield. So their whole offensive game plan when it came to passing, at least early on, short, quick passes. I mean, 3 drop step, whatever, get the ball out and move, right? Even if it's just 2-3 yards, do not allow the sack. And I think that was throwing us off early on. We weren't able to get any of that momentum or that pressure forward to stop them, because we just found ourselves on our heels instantly and could not overcome that. So it was, eventually it got to hitting the orange wall. Eventually we just totally snuffed them out. But dude, I'll tell you what, when we went down 10-0 and when we were that close to being down 17-0, I was not feeling good. I was not good at all.
Yeah, no, I can imagine not. And I can't. What I can't imagine is what that stadium was like when Pat Surtain was just rolling down the sideline with the ball in his hands. That's one of those special moments. That's a rare thing to get to enjoy. And right, after that, it was just a complete meltdown for the Raiders offense. Right, it felt like suddenly the Denver defense had all the answers again. And I don't know what changed, but and Brandon Jones had an interesting comment that I don't know how much of it is real, but he did say they were preparing for Devontae Adams to play all week. And when he wasn't there, it changed up a little bit of what their game plan was. They really had game plan for him to be in there. When he wasn't there, it really kind of threw them for a loop a little bit. And then especially, I think, with how much they started targeting Bowers as their primary receiver early on, I think was a little bit of a throw-off for them. But they got there eventually.
So what you're saying is we were able to make adjustments based off of things we were seeing that were not working in the first quarter. We didn't even wait till halftime.
Nope.
But you're right. I mean, the crazy thing was the defense had been out on the field for so long up until that pick six. I mean, you got to remember the first quarter, the Broncos essentially had one drive of 3 plays. They got the ball back the second time to end the first quarter. And this was like the third drive, I think, for the Raiders at this point. And they had been long drives. This one, they got all the way down the field. They were basically at the 12-yard line, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they got the pick 6, but then they got to go back on the field again.
Right.
Immediately after. But what did they do?
They
3
locked
and
it
out.
down. 3 and out.
They locked it down, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like game on, you know. Save the orange slices. Don't need them. We're good. Let's press forward and get this thing back in the road. Because, not only is it 7-10 at that point, next thing you know, you blink and it's 10-10. And then somehow it's halfway through the game. I remember sitting there at the beginning of halftime like, how are we winning? How are we winning this game?
Because, man, it looked like it wasn't as bad as the Jets game for Bo Nix, right? But the result was basically the same, right? Like, I think he had 100 yards passing at halftime this week, but it didn't matter, right? The offense had gone nowhere. The field goal that they got on the field goal drive came on 3 plays at the very end of the first half with like less than 30 seconds left or less than 40 seconds left on the clock. They get into field goal range, but only because when they kick the field goal, the Raiders get a personal foul and they get 15 yards closer. Otherwise, Will Lutz misses it and it's 10-10 going into halftime, right? And so, you really just kind of luck into those points. And then in the second half, it was a little bit like last week, but more so. Bo Nix finds something. And suddenly there's a little bit more rhythm. Suddenly he's a little bit more able to find receivers down the field. He's screaming at Sean Payton on the sideline. It feels like a completely different game again. And William, we obviously, if we had sideline audio, that would be ideal.
I would love that.
I would almost bet you anything that Bo Nix did not say "I love you" and Sean Payton did not say "I love you" back the way that Bo Nix said it went down in the post-game presser. There's two things that it sounds like it could be. Obviously, it could just be what they were talking about at the press conference, which was that there was the play came in and it got flipped to opposite sides of the field from what Sean Payton wanted. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe Sean Payton thought Bo Nix could have just taken the slant underneath instead of going and gotten a first down in that situation instead of launching one for Troy Franklin in the end zone. Right. Or maybe on that second down when the ball got fumbled because the center was thinking it was an under center play and Bo Nix was in the shotgun, that Bo Nix got that wrong. It could have been any one of those things, but it's either way. I think most of the analysis I've heard around the national media has actually been, this is probably a good thing.
That's what I was going to ask you was, what's your take on it? We don't know we can only go based off the optics, but not even just the Russ and Sean Payton situation, but why don't we add in the Travis Kelce, Andy Reid situation from what was that, last year or the year before?
Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Right? So what do you think, man?
Yeah, this is nothing. This happens all the time. It's something when Aaron Rodgers is your coach and you're Robert Saleh. The Broncos aren't the Jets, and Sean Payton isn't Robert Saleh, and Bo Nix isn't Aaron Rodgers. Right now, he's playing better than Aaron Rodgers. That's the way that is. So yeah, it's just kind of a big nothing burger to me. It's good to see that Bo Nix is willing to stand up for himself with a really demanding teacher and coach like Sean Payton is, and that's all I've got.
Well, and you're anything more than that, you're really kind of getting a speculation. But if you're just looking at again, not only was Bo Nix fighting back, and I don't say fighting back, but making his point heard. This is a relationship dynamic we're seeing develop. right? Look, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson never had any kind of good relationship. They were never on the same page. So look, when you feel comfortable enough with someone, even a mentor, if you get into those situations, you want to fight for yourself and stand up to them and be like, no, you're wrong. And you can only do that to someone like a head coach if you have that relationship. If you have that trust to be able to do that, and hey, we'll talk about it, we'll get through it, we'll get past it, and we'll move on. But in that moment, like, to share those emotions, those feelings, and say, no, screw that, whatever, blah, 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 So look, I don't think it was like mean or like heated in any way. I think it was two people passionate about the play, passionate about the moment, just trying to make their points be heard. And also maybe Bo Nix was like, I'm not Russell Wilson. Don't think that I'm not going to just sit back and be quiet. Like, I'm going to stand up for myself if need, right? So again, to be a fly on, not a fly on the wall, but in the area to hear what was being said would have been fantastic at that point. Man, you're talking about touchdowns though. Yeah, Gary, 2 touchdowns, 3 in 3 minutes was an adrenaline rush. The 2 interceptions, we talked about that. That's just huge. You talked about Bo playing better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, did the Broncos break the Jets? Like, hard break the Jets?
I will say this. I think the Broncos and the Vikings 2 weeks in a row broke the Jets. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I do.
It reminded me of like Cam Newton and the Panthers, and the Broncos broke them hard, right? So, I don't get, and this isn't a Jets podcast. When your offense is the problem, I don't know why you fire your defensive-minded head coach, especially when the offensive coordinator is is Hackett. So, okay, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and oh man, it's such a key part of their maturation together here, right? You're in October, Sean Payton's month. You've got two division games in a row. You've got that, a real chance to win games against the Panthers and the Saints. If you take care of business at home in your division games, it's you could see this team going in a really interesting direction in the next month or so if they do everything right. Yeah.
You're right. They have to do everything right. Some of it is out of their control. They have to stay healthy.
Yeah. And
now,
we'll talk about that.
Actually, maybe we'll talk about that right now. One of the big things I want to bring up, because this is actually a good problem for the Broncos to have. You rewind the clock back about 4 or 5 weeks. We were just hoping Riley Moss was not going to be a liability on that side of the field. Basically, like, Damari Mathis can hurry up and come back. What do you do with Damari Mathis now? Because you don't bench Riley Moss with the way he's playing. Trade bait? What do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't know if he has any trade value at this point, to be honest with you. I think you just keep him as a reserve and hope you don't need him for right now. And, maybe next year you kind of reevaluate your depth at that position with younger guys there. I don't know if Chris Abrams-Drain might take that position and be enough. We'll see. And Jerry, I think this year you're just getting to see more of PS2 because teams are finding out you can't just throw on Riley Moss. I think they're trying to test him a little bit more because there's not just an easy turnstile on the other side of the field anymore. So yeah, I think you're definitely seeing more production out of PS2, and you might continue to, just because you've got really 2 legit corners there now.
Now you have to hope that one of them has a bad day and figure out which one it is that's having a bad day versus just, okay, we're not even going to test PS2. We know we're going to have better luck on the other side. Well, now not so much. now you really got to be careful before you let that ball go, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You never know.
How do I say this? It has a very similar basic look and feel as that badass 2015 Broncos defense. No fly zone, baby. I mean, where is this the pass, the pressure to the quarterback is being helped by that, coverage on the backfield. Yes, we're being more aggressive with the pass rush, but it's only working because the coverage is working so well. So things are clicking on the defense, man.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's very similar to that 2015 defense in style, just because there's a ton of man coverage. And there's a ton of just attacking up front. Now that defense, like you were saying, did it more with 4 than this defense does, but still, I mean, you had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, you can get away with that. But yeah, no, you're getting a ton of production from every level of this defense right now, including the linebackers, which is really fascinating to see. It's so great to watch, and it's sustainable. That's the thing.
It is.
You've got these players just making really good plays, and that's more sustainable than we're just blitzing the hell out of you right now because we know we can't get pressure with 4, or because we know our defensive backs can't hold up in coverage that long and we need to get there. They can hold up. And even if it takes a few extra seconds, man, how many times have we gotten really decent coverage sacks this season, right? Because that coverage has held up so long. Those guys can get there on their first and second rushes and third rushes. They can get back to that quarterback. It's really working on all levels for that defense. Vance Joseph's cooking.
Again, I know I've said it last week, probably said it a couple times, but the difference a year can make. Just where were we this time last year? Just hating on Vance Joseph, hating on Sean Payton for the pick of Vance Joseph. Just like, why is VJ even back? Why is he showing his face in Denver? And now it's just like, please don't leave.
Now it's like he's going to be a head coach.
Please don't go.
Yeah,
exactly. No, seriously, in the next couple of years, I guarantee you. I mean, he puts this together year in, year out, 2-3 years, you start getting offers, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, please don't. Please don't go. Like, not as soon as things are going well, like, please don't, But the cool thing is, like, these are, I don't want to say no-name talent anymore because they're earning their name, right? You're hearing their names more often in very good ways, but they're not the big household names. So again, we're looking towards the future a little bit. Yeah, we're in a rebuild, but this is how you start recruiting some of those free agents.
Yeah.
Hey, come over here. We're still going to pay you, maybe take a little less, but you're going to be part of this badass defense. Mm-hmm. And if you put your ass in gear, the numbers you're going to get are massive, not to even mention the possibility of a deep playoff push in Super Bowl. This is where you can really recruit that top end free agent market and build something from there. But you have to have the base of the players you get through the draft, that young talent, that young team that builds together from the foundation up. And that's what we're seeing here. And so why didn't we do this 8 years ago? I don't know. Doesn't matter anymore. I'm not even mad about it anymore. I've let it go. I've made my peace because here we are. Broncos 3-game win streak. Let's talk a little bit more about the offense because I know we've covered some of the injuries there, but offense here. One of the big ones. I don't know if you've heard of any updates from Palczewski. I know Mike McGlinchey is maybe another week away from coming back, but that right tackle position may be a little weak for us right now. What do you think?
Yeah, no, and the Broncos did sign Cam Fleming to the practice squad today. We know him as a key reserve from the team for a few years. So I think that tells you a little bit of something about Palczewski's status. We haven't heard anything specific, but he did not come back into that game, obviously. He does have a high ankle sprain. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it does sound like he will at least miss a few weeks. And then, of course, with McGlinchey out as well, that's tough. You may get him back in the next couple of weeks. They did put him on IR to miss at least 4 games, but that's at least 4 games, right? He's already missed 3. So, in theory, you could get him back as soon as the Saints game if they open his practice window. On the other hand, that's a Thursday night game, and that's not going to happen, guys. They're not going to bring him back on a Thursday night game. No. Realistically, the closest thing you're looking at for him is probably going to be, I think it's the Panthers game then, right? After that, from McGlinchey. No. Right. And even then, with an opponent like the Panthers who don't have a defense with really top quality pass rushers, you might want to try and rest him another week to, lean on that depth a little bit more if they're performing. But yeah, so you've got right now Palchevsky hurt. They had Matt Parrott step in and play left and right tackle when they lost Garrett Bowles and Palchevsky at one point during the Raiders game. So yeah, they've got Matt Pert there still. They've got Cam Fleming now as their backups. Bowles did go back into the game, so they're hoping he's good to go. But yeah, I don't think they're ready to lean on Frank Crum yet to do any kind of playing at right or left tackle.
And so this is where the blocking scheme really is. I mean, the importance of the blocking scheme just increases exponentially, and we're seeing good blocking from the running backs. Now, one of the concern areas is the tight end, which I get a lot of people are pissed off. We didn't draft tight end, blah, blah, blah. Look, we just couldn't. Okay. We didn't have enough picks. Okay.
It's just the way it is, guys.
It is the way it is.
Yeah.
We're not going to trade. We're not going to make some big blockbuster trade at the last minute for some big tight end either. So we're stuck with basically Kroll and Dulcich, okay, for this year. We'll see what happens next year, but for right now, that's it. So we did see Lucas Kroll get the start this week. It seems like Dulcich just was not cutting it. He's not doing enough. Some of that could be blocking issues. Definitely some, basically no production in the passing game to very little. But good thing is I didn't hear Lucas Kroll's name a lot in terms of, man, he missed that. He did have the one catch for 5 yards, but what do you think, is going to happen with that tight end position? How is that going to impact the right tackle and shoring up that side?
I mean, I don't know. It feels like to me, as far as blocking goes, Krull and Dulcich are probably about the same level in that you don't want to be relying on them much. And I think that's why you saw Nate Adkins out there a ton with Adam Troutman. And I think that, at least Krull caught the one ball that came his way. And so I think, and that's the best thing that we can say about him over Dulcich right now. Guys, I know you want to have more production out of that tight end position. You want to have more production out of everywhere in the offense, and it feels like tight end would be an easy way to unlock it. Right now it's not the way it's going. And that's really frustrating, and I get it. But yeah, it do be like that right now. That's just the kind of the hand they've been dealt. We were trying to rebuild a roster, and the way that the Broncos have distributed their draft picks in the last few years, that's just the way like you said, Kev, they didn't have the picks, and they picked the players they had when they had them available, and they didn't get a tight end. And I imagine it will be a priority for them at some point, but for now, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You're right. It is going to be a priority at some point, probably this next year. I would say going into this next season, we'll have a lot of talk about the tight end position. I know there's, the Hunter story out there from Boulder. Is he going to come to Denver? All that stuff. I don't know, guys. We'll see. But for right now, I think that what we're seeing is this coaching staff's making it work. And by that, I mean, they're not just coming up with good schemes, but they're really utilizing the players' strengths, their previous experiences. I mean, you look at Justin Strnad and the way they've used him. Going back to the defense again, I know, but lead tackler for the team this week. Wow.
Yeah. And really doing really great work in the run game and finding the proper gap, attacking it and getting uphill and making a few tackles in the backfield. Really impressed with just the way he has adapted to this defense after being such a key special teamer for so many years. And the way Vance Joseph is using him and Cody Barton, who is, kind of came in here as just another guy, really. And they have been really, really fantastic.
Let's see. I'm going to do a little fact check. And Gary, sorry, man. I think the stat you pulled was maybe a little old. We are at 19 sacks on the season so far, man. We got 11 sacks between weeks 3 and 4, just between those 2 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah.
But either way, we're sitting at 19 sacks. This is, I just don't even know, like the when you have a defense this good, it can take you just so far. You know, you don't need an offense that is amazing. You don't need an offense that is going to put up 40 points a game. You know, you just need an offense that can consistently put up 24, 27 points a game. You're going to be winning the vast majority of those, man. And you're looking at teams like Kansas City and all these, you know, the Chargers. We haven't played them yet. We're about to. They're tough teams, but they're teams that we can hang with easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it should feel to this team, especially this defense, right? Like you were talking about, they can hang with anybody. The Ravens, I know that's going to be a tough one with Lamar Jackson coming in, but I feel like they really do have that confidence that they can hang with anybody. And they, you know, suddenly some opportunities are opening up. And as we talk, transition a little bit into the Chargers game here, you know, they're coming off a bye week, but before their bye week, both of their starting tackles were hurt. Justin Herbert already had an injury that had him in a walking boot. He's had some time to heal up on that, but even if he can't be 100%. He's never 100%. It's Justin Herbert. If those tackles are still injured, or even one of them is, Joe Alton, Rashawn Slater, that's a weakness that this defense can and will attack. You've got another real opportunity for this defense to go out in front of a home crowd that's going to be keyed up and really, really make another statement game for themselves.
Yeah. Before we do transition, David, over to week 6 there, any closing thoughts from this just beat down of a Raiders game?
Well, and this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier with the playoffs thing. Why you don't do it. Because, man, we got to score a touchdown in the first half before we can start talking about playoffs. Guys, This is, it's 2 weeks in a row. And, both scored passing touchdowns in both of those games eventually. But, you're going to have to show me a lot more than that if you want to talk about a team that's really going to be competing. You've just got to show me more consistency. And they're improving. They're definitely improving week to week. I think you see it. But you've got to get better still.
Yep. Look, this team is human. They're going to have a bad week. They might have a couple bad weeks in a row. They might have 3 bad weeks in a row. We're rebuilding. We're going to be even when we do get to the playoffs, David. That doesn't mean we're not rebuilding anymore. We're still rebuilding. Okay. That doesn't mean like, cool, we're done rebuilding. We got our playoff team. We're good to go. No, you just cut into the playoffs. There is a lot more you still got to do, right? And it gets tougher the closer you get to getting in, wanting to be a deep playoff push team. So this is great to see this team having this kind of success early on, because I think that's what really helps bond a team this young. And again, you go back to David talking about, if I had $1 for every time the past 5-6 years we talked about, well, the Broncos lost 10 games, but 7 of them we lost by a touchdown, and 5 of those we lost by a field goal or less, and I get it. We were so close, but these guys were putting in the work, putting the effort, and had nothing to show for it. Well, now they're putting the work, they're putting the effort. They have something to show for it. Now they're buying into the system. They're stepping up for each other, and this is as good as it could be this early on, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, really.
Love it.
I love it.
Okay, it is halftime, guys. Go get a hug from your mom, grab a drink from the juice box, get a quick breather, and we're going to make some announcements here. Make sure you check out all the content we have here at Bourbon Broncos No B.S. Go ahead and follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcast. I guarantee you we're there. I'm finding out about podcast places we're at right now. So somehow we have spread out everywhere, and we're there. The post-game podcast from this last week is already up. You guys can go check that out. Me and Scott, the Flagman. I'm sure you've seen him on the news if you're in Colorado and watch the Colorado news. He's like always on the news for every Broncos game, it seems like. But we break the game down in a lot more detail and have some good times just for looking back at everything that happened on Sunday. This upcoming, this next, Friday night, we'll release, Saturday morning, release the pregame podcast as we look forward to the Chargers game. And then, of course, Sunday, we got our live show content, the live pregame tailgate talk, 1 hour before kickoff. So about 1 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll be live there, as well as live during halftime for the original live halftime show, the halftime hash here at Bourbon Broncos No BS. So subscribe, like, comment for the algorithm. That helps us out more than anything else, guys. But definitely do appreciate you guys tuning in, sharing your thoughts, sharing your questions. I want to pull up a couple here really quickly. Clayton, definitely appreciate you tuning in. I saw you had something here. Yeah, great way to top off the night. It's a great night, great way for us to top off Tuesday night, to be with you guys. Seriously. I mean, otherwise I'd just probably be like, I don't know, talking to David and he's like, go away, leave me alone. I don't know.
Accurate.
David, yeah, I don't know what you're drinking over there, but if you guys do need a drink, make sure you check out the Breckenridge Distillery Broncos blend. Those guys make some delicious stuff. If you go to the Broncos game as well, they have a little trailer in Lot C. They hand out some free samplers. So if you want maybe a 1 or 2 before the game, definitely check that out. Okay, it is officially week 6 here at Bourbon Broncos No BS. We get ready for the Chargers game. David, I feel like I need like a button to press or a bell to ring where it's like, it's officially the next week. And I don't know, I feel like there needs to be more fanfare about it.
I mean, I feel like we haven't really felt that way in the past, because before it was like, oh man, cool,
Here we go,
another week.
No,
yay.
God.
I know.
I want to start this segment off with this kind of question, man.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had the 5-game win streak, and that was great. Everyone loved it. Super awesome memory. Nobody's going to forget it. But we were digging ourselves out of a pretty big hole. And I got to say, I think a lot of the relief was we're not going to end the season at 12-5. You know? Thank God we're at least not going to end the season. And thank God we have something to talk about other than losing 70-20 in Miami. Like, there were a lot of relief factors there, I think, more than there's a lot to look forward to about that team in the future. Sitting here now at a 3-game win streak, do you feel better now about that than you did about the 5-game win streak, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, but mostly just because it's a good sign that the future that you're so invested in is going the way you were kind of hoping it would, right? And yeah, again,
right,
guys,
exactly.
again, another reason I don't want to talk about playoffs is because I still am of the opinion that wins and losses just don't matter this season. They really don't. It's nice to be on the right side of 500. It's nice to look forward to the next 4 games and say we could be 6-2 at the end. But man, yeah, let's see Bo Nix keep progressing. Let's see him go out there and face a tough Chargers defense that is playing really, really well this season, and do something pretty similar to what Seattle has been doing. And we know how hard of a game that was for Bo. Just do a little bit better in that game, win that game, and then pass another really tough test right away, because then you got to go right on the road and face a New Orleans defense that has been really tough at stretches this year, and on a short week on Thursday night. Progress week to week there. That's what I really want to see, and it'll be nice to compile some more wins these next few weeks, but that's still my ultimate goal overall, right?
Well, you look at, I think you win at least one of the next 2 games. You go into that little mini bye week 4-3. Who would have thought the Broncos would be a winning football team by that point?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is looking a little far ahead. I know I keep, you were like, Carr is supposed to be out for the next couple weeks, and I got really excited. I was like, wait, don't we have a game before that? We do think about a little bit more.
Yes.
And I do expect the Chargers to charger, but you can't just let them take a huge lead. I don't think you can allow them to get a really early 10-0 lead and just start racking up the points. Again, you can't rely on a Pat Surtain pick six on the goal line or just an interception at all on the goal line. That a huge point differential swing there, so you have to go out there and you have to start stronger. Defense has done that the majority of the time this season. So I think that was maybe more of a fluke for them trying to figure out what, how to overcome what the Raiders were doing. But the offense, you're right. Baby steps improvements. Let's just go out there and good couple drives, good maybe couple first downs. You don't need to get in field goal position right away. You don't need a big bomb down the field. Now, I will say, let me ask you about this. Javonte Williams there, lead receiver for the Broncos this last week. Now, granted, what Bo did set a Broncos record for the number of receivers that caught a ball this week. I can't remember the number, was like 7 or something like that. It was
11.
Like tons of people had 11. Yeah, it was tons of people like one target for one reception kind of thing. But I still feel like there's just, it's not that we don't have the talent, but people aren't stepping up. And I'm going to point to Trey Franklin with that prime example of the drop pass in the end zone, man.
Well, yeah, and it was, this is the reason, this and him kind of having a really hard time against kind of or aggressive coverage are two reasons we didn't think we were going to see a ton of Troy Franklin this year. And it was, just the drops are on the college tape for sure. And it was one of those things that it caused him to fall in the draft. And it, you were hoping chemistry with your college quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. But, we saw it in training camp too. And we saw him kind of pressed into service there just because, I still don't know what the deal with Marvin Mims is, but they needed game-breaking speed at that position, and they wanted to give Franklin a try, and he just couldn't, he couldn't do it in that big spot. That was his moment right there. That was his moment to get a third passing touchdown for Bo Nix on the day. That was his moment to
put the game away,
put questions about what his role should be in the offense away. And, and now the Broncos have signed a receiver, I think named A.T. Perry, something like that, onto their practice squad, who is 6'4" and runs a 4.4 and is a second-year player. So, clearly they're still looking for that player to be that kind of game breaker on the back end for them, because they don't think it's Mims or Franklin right now.
Well, the interesting thing is we saw Mims have a great breakout game on the special team side of the ball this week. He had a couple different just phenomenal punt returns. The one for 38 yards, putting it on the 50-yard line. That was momentous for that point of the game, and to put the Broncos where they were on, with everything going on. So translate that to the offense, man. Why are we? You can do it, and we've seen him do it in game time situations in the offense, and it just petered out. But then you got to wonder, like, okay, if the coaching staff is willing to make moves at tight end, put in Kroll instead of Dulcich, when does this new guy get a chance? What about Vele? Yeah, he had the ribs issue, but are we still just giving him extra time for that? Or do we say, hey, Troy Franklin, I'm not saying that Troy Franklin's a bust. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying where he's at right now, he doesn't deserve to be on the football field on game day.
Yeah.
He needs time to grow. And putting him on the field, I think at this point is more of a disservice to him, because if anything, it's hurting his confidence, if you ask me.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see if they make any kind of reconfiguration with that wide receiver room. We did hear Coach Payton say that Devon Vele would play, quote unquote, sooner rather than later before this last game. So I don't know what that actually means. Maybe it means nothing, but maybe it actually means he does get into a game in the near future here, and maybe against the Chargers this week at home. That would be, we'll see.
Maybe it means nothing.
Maybe it means nothing. It's
maybe
Sean
it means everything.
Maybe he's going to make another oblique reference to like a weird not weird, but like a 40-year-old movie. We'll just never know.
I do appreciate, I can't remember, was it Kliss that followed up and was like, What do you mean by that?
Yeah, at least somebody did. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think it was Cliss,
Mhm.
because he has a pretty unique voice. When you say that, Coach, what do you mean? Because I know I thought it. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, same. I had no
He
idea what he
skips
was
out a
talking
lot.
about.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's ornery. That's what I took.
he's ornery.
Yeah, he's freelancing.
Freelancing. Let's see, Victor, how you doing? Good to see you here. Keith, we usually beat up on the Chargers at home. Look, I don't want to take that for granted. Just like, look at what the Raiders fans did. They tell you, we beat you 8 times in a row.
Right.
We're gonna make it 9 times in a row. Screw blah blah. Donkeys this and donkeys that. Okay, I don't want to get there. Yes, Keith, you're right. More often than not, we tend to beat the Chargers at home, even when we're sucking in general. Okay. With everything going on with the team right now, the defense looking good, the offense may be picking things up. I feel comfortable, but I'm not ready to just say, oh, this is going to be an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. Not saying you are either, but I do not want to be eating crow 1 week after we beat the Raiders.
Yeah, for sure. No, and especially in another division game, like if you want to start talking about playoffs down the road, you've got to bank these kind of games early enough in the season, right? When you've got them and you've got an opportunity to do it. So this is not the game for a letdown game.
Let's see, Sean, Justin Strnad has definitely stepped up in Phil Singleton's shoes. Got to find a way to get Mims more involved. We kind of just talked about Mims more. I know we mentioned Strnad earlier. Explain a little bit more what we can expect from the Chargers and their offense. I know they like to be a run-heavy team, especially under Harbaugh, but we've kind of seen the Broncos defense hold up pretty well against the run game. So, if you're the Chargers, how are you game planning against this Broncos defense, man?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think that's what they're going to try to do. I think they're going to try and load up and Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman the F out of this. I think that they know that just on an island, their receivers aren't any kind of match for this Broncos secondary. You got Ladd McConkey and not much else there, and that's not going to cut it.
Who?
Yeah, well, exactly. I think they've seen the Broncos get gashed on the ground once or twice per game this season for big plays. I think they can exploit that, and I think that that's what they're going to try to do. So I think you've got to make sure if you're the Broncos defense, the plan A, B, and C is to stop the run. Get these Chargers into these 3rd and long situations where they have to throw the football and make something happen against this secondary, against this pass rush.
Yeah. I'll tell you what concerns me is what I was expecting from the Raiders. And I don't know what whoever was calling plays for the Raiders offense confused me, because when you're getting stuffed running the ball up the middle, I get you don't want to abandon the run game, but how often do we see them really try to run to the outside, try to really open up the run game by spreading out those inside linebackers, making us not able to just fill those gaps every single time, knowing that they're just going to run up the middle and they're going to get 0 to 1 yards and it's going to be perfect for us. I expect Harbaugh to be a little smarter.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, some of those runs to the outside, spread us out, open up that pass game. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to run up the middle. I'm going to make those linebackers run side to side all game long, tire them out. And then, when the pass game is working as well, now I can start thinking about really running up the middle and tiring them down and wearing them out even more.
Well, and we'll see. Maybe they will try and do what the Raiders did as far as keep short passes near the line of scrimmage, but to the boundaries going, and get that side-to-side movement on the defense that way. We saw the Broncos a couple of times do something that, for the most part, they haven't done this season really, which is miss tackles. They've been a pretty decent tackling team this year, but against the Raiders, they missed a couple that led to some big plays after the fact. And so maybe that's what you're counting on if you're the Chargers too, to see if you can get that same kind of action going.
Right. Now, the Chargers are like, please, they need to have a slow start so we can rack up some early points, not allow them to get to the momentum like the Raiders did and just hold on to our lead. We can't come out there looking slow. And it's like when it's a home game, you're like, man, you're in front of your home crowd. You go down the tunnel, everyone's cheering for you. Like, why don't you just go out there with that just fire in your belly right off the bat? Like, why do you have to wait till you're down 10-0 and wait for a big pick six? You know, just don't put us in that situation as the fans to be like, oh God, here we go. You know, God, it was frustrating. Let's see, Sean. I think this game will be very tough. Agreed. They are coming off a bye week and have an interception and multiple sacks in each game as well. So, yeah. How concerned are you about their pass rush?
Well, it depends on what Joey Bosa's health is like. And he's another one of those Chargers players that was injured before the bye. We'll see what he comes back as, if he comes back. Khalil Mack is still playing well. I don't know if he's playing quite to the level as last season, but yeah, he's playing well. And if these tackles are still hurt, I'm not unconcerned. Bo Nix is getting the ball out quickly and has been tough to sack. I don't know if Khalil Mack is quite the level of a Max Crosby type player, but we saw the Broncos have an answer for him on most plays. So I think they can have a little bit of an effect on the game there. For me, if you're the offense, you keep doing what you've been doing successfully in games where you've been able to run the football, right? Because like we were talking about, it's opened up so much for Bo Nix and what he can do. He, and to his credit, is looking a little bit more comfortable in the pure under center play action game. And they've been making a meaningful effort to roll that out every game. And having that skill is really, really important to this Sean Payton offense in particular, but just offenses today in the NFL. And, I get it because you don't want your quarterback turning his back to the defense if he can help it because he's so young. But, man, you gotta develop that part of your offense. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that maybe that'll help neutralize that pass rush a little bit against these Chargers. Just keep going with that. Keep going with the running game and let the passing game flow from there. Yeah.
Look, I'm fine with short passes. I'm fine with that. What bugs me is when it's 3rd and 6 and you throw a, 1 yard pass screen to the side that already has 2 defenders on the guy. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, why? I get it. Bo, like, push your eyes just a little further down the field, at least throw to the chains. I'd rather, if they only hit 50% of it, that's fine, but at least they're throwing to the chains. At least they're trying. If you get 90% of the receptions, but they're 1 yard gains on 3rd and 6, well, screw that. Yeah. So, there's things to improve. Mm-hmm. I will say it is cool. A little fun stat. Broncos have held opposing offenses 0-4 on 4th downs.
How about hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good little stat there. Let's see what other comments here. Goddamn bubble screens. Yeah, Keith. Every goddamn thing.
Look, a couple of them work. A couple of them
work. Mm-hmm. But should they have? But they did. Did.
Yeah.
Victor, good point here. David, let me ask you this. I almost got and maybe I'm just looking into it too much. I almost got the sense this last game, especially, that it seemed that there were maybe 2 or 3 moments where Bo could have run, used his legs, gotten the first down, but it almost seemed like he was holding back.
There were a couple of times that I think on the read option specifically that they had it, that I wish he kind of kept it instead of handing it off. On the other hand, there are a couple of times where I was really encouraged to see him step up in the pocket, plant his foot, and throw a football.
Agreed.
I think that Troy Franklin pass was one where it looked like there was several yards of green grass in front of him. And there was maybe a little bit of, there was a point where you could have seen him thinking pressure was coming from his left, even though I don't think there actually was any. And he stepped up. And I thought maybe he was just going to run, but no, he gunned the ball into Troy Franklin instead. And it was a big play. And it's kind of the growth we're talking about here, guys. There has been that little bit of a tendency to bail on clean pockets and to bail when there's really not enough pressure to justify it and to use those legs a little bit too much. So I think right now he's trying to find that balance between, take off when the play is really, really suited for it and when it's really covered up downfield. And that play of, I want to hunt with the football. I want to stand in the pocket. I want to step up and find a pass play downfield that's going to net me more than 7 yards rushing here. And
exactly.
So yeah, that's what I think they're looking for, is that balance.
You know, when you have a young, talented quarterback like Bo Nix who has the capability of making plays with his legs, that's great. I don't want that quarterback to learn really early on to purely rely on that. And so, David, that's exactly. I started smiling because, like, you're making the point, one, more eloquently than I could have, but two, exactly where I was going with this. You know, I think that's good coaching. You know, I think it's, hey, yes, you can do that, but don't abandon the clean pocket. Don't necessarily just opt for that option every single time. You know, you have other options available to you, potentially. Look around the field. And I mean, yes, Trey Franklin did not reel that ball in. Yes, Bo Nix said it was his fault. No, because if you get the ball in the receiver's hands, at that point, it's the receiver's fault. But anyway, we've been talking for so many years about just wanting a more exciting offense to watch. Well, taking that shot to the end zone was a lot more exciting than him just scrambling for the first down. You know, yes, maybe the drive would have resulted in touchdown eventually, but that was an exciting play. Yeah. So at least we got somebody who's willing to take those shots as well. But you're right. It's all learning. He's soaking this stuff in every week. He's watching the tape. He's going back through those things, talking to his quarterback coach about it all. And again, think back to where he was week one compared to what we saw, especially the second half this last week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guy hasn't thrown an interception in 2 weeks, but he's thrown for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, again, it's you look at it and you say, oh, but he can't do this yet still, and he can't do that yet still. And you're right. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff he needs to work on, and he'll still work on it, guys. We are 5 games into the season, but you also have to acknowledge the things that have gone better and look like they're continuing to get better. And all you can do now is wait and see if that trend goes upwards like it has been. That's all you can do right now. Maybe it goes back. Maybe it all implodes on itself at some point this season, but maybe it doesn't. And now at the end of the season, you're looking at a guy who's like, all right, yeah, we can build around this. We can make this happen.
Yeah, exactly. At least know this is a guy we're going to stick with for the foreseeable future. You know, it's not going to be okay, we're going to give him 1 more year to see if he has a chance. You know, I think at this point you can say, unless something just incredibly outrageous happens, we like the direction we're going. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the show, guys. Stick around for our closing thoughts and some other quick announcements. Sean, I do need a halftime jingle. I'm not the creative one, though, so I know people that are a little more creative than me, and we'll maybe make something. Just to make it a little more exciting. Like I said earlier, guys, make sure you subscribe, comment, like, and share, all for the algorithm. FTA helps us out the most, more than anything else. But again, you being here is fantastic. Appreciate all the comments, all the questions. We're here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for our show here. Game day, like I said, 1 hour before kickoff, live for the tailgate talk, live at the halftime, hash. So make sure you check us out then. Pre-game podcast, post-game podcast. Make sure you check those out. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. Follow us on YouTube. All those things, and that's. I mean, it'd be like a Christmas gift, honestly. Man, the season is flying by. It's crazy to think about being in week 6. Here we are, man.
Right.
Let's see. Anything else I was going to say? Breckenridge Distillery, Broncos blend. Make sure you check out some of that. If you want to feel like a champion, the same way the Broncos do after winning 3 games in a row, make sure you get some Broncos blend bourbon from Breckenridge Distillery. Beautiful weather coming up this weekend, David. Looks like highs in the high 60s. So great weather, some clouds maybe. The Broncos will be debuting their orange jerseys at home for the first time this year. We just kind of think that we haven't seen the home jerseys on the home field until week 7.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. Like, man, the throwback jerseys got used before the home oranges this year. But yeah,
Perfect timing, though.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they won. I mean, they've won in orange both times they played in orange this season. So yeah, we'll see if the streak continues. What do you want? What pants do you want, Kev? I almost want them to come out there in the blue pants. It might clash, but man, it might look real good.
I think it might. Here's the thing: we have the options, right? Like they designed those uniforms to have the interchangeable pants. We've seen the white pants a lot this year. Why not? Like go out there. You just had the awesome throwback jerseys. Mix it up. I would love to see that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. I mean, and they've tried all the other pants combinations, either in the preseason or the regular season with the white tops. So I say keep it going.
Blue pants. That's
absolutely.
Our prediction.
Absolutely.
Gary asking Chargers versus Broncos score. So if you want to hear our score predictions for the game, guys, you got to do a couple things. Either one, listen to the pregame podcast. Those guys do a great job of breaking everything down and end it on their score predictions. Also, pregame tailgate talk 1 hour before kickoff, guys. We do our score predictions, not only giving you our score predictions, but we have our score prediction contest where if you guess the score, if you predict the score correctly and the Broncos win, you can't guess the other team to win. That doesn't count. Then you will win some awesome Broncos swag from us here at Bourbon Broncos No B.S. We have had a winner before in the 9 years we've done this, hoping for another winner this year. So check us out for stuff on Sunday. David, man, here we are at the time of the show, dude. Closing thoughts over to you, buddy. What do you got?
It's just going to be variations on a theme because these are kind of what I've said before. But guys, I just want to end by continuing to harp on the idea that the struggles may feel the same at times, but it is different. Like it may feel like we've got just an inept offense at times, but just kind of at least go back to the idea that the reason behind that feeling of ineptness is a little bit different now. It's not because you've got an old vet who's stuck in his own ways and his style doesn't translate to the NFL anymore. It's because you've got a guy who's literally learning how to be an NFL quarterback for the first time. And you've got to let him have the room to do that. The best way to learn how to play the game of football is to play the game of football. And he'll get better. The season will have ups and downs still. It's not going to be the sky's the limit from here. But just stay on board, stay with it, and look for the incremental growth. Don't expect it all to happen all at once because it's not going to happen all at once. Keep your eye out for the incremental growth. That's what I got.
So, I don't know. My thoughts. I'm kind of here, David. What do you think? Too early? Too early?
No.
I got to make that an O anyway.
Yeah.
Look, guys, David's spot on. Lots of positives out of this. We're on the right track. We're seeing the team grow from their mistakes. We're not just seeing the same mistakes over and over again. Yes, some of it's maybe not going as quickly as we'd like, but it is at least improving. And the Broncos. Right. And it's not even like the Broncos are 3-2 because we barely scraped by on all these games. And it's like the other team just had a terrible day, No, the Broncos have basically deserved these 3 wins, especially on the defense. But offenses held their own, done what they needed to do to get the points needed to win. And here we are. So let's be happy about that. Let's enjoy the fact that we're this good in the season. I mean, look, we were 0-2, and I was starting to see those posts come out that say teams that start 0-3 have like a 0% chance of getting to the playoffs. Maybe It was like a 2%. And it was like, it's week 3, and we're starting to see these posts. I'm like, this is terrible. So here we are to be on the other side of that spectrum. Like, hey, too early to talk about playoffs, but this is a different side of the coin, man.
Yeah, very, very different side of the coin. And yeah, it's just going to be an interesting ride from here, guys. Can't wait.
Awesome. David, thank you very much as always, sir, for joining me. You are fantastic. Hopefully we get Jared and Spotty back here next week as well. Make sure you all check out the post-game and the pre-game podcast. Post-game is up right now. Thank you very much. Guys, you're awesome. David, you're awesome. I don't think there's anything left to say for me anyway, David, other than end this, as we always do, on a very strong Go Broncos.
Broncos.
Take care, everyone.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.